Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Classic Gaming Brothers. I'm Seth.
And I'm Zach.
And we are the Classic Gaming Brothers.
That's right. We are the Classic Gaming Brothers.
That's right.
That's right.
Welcome back to the studio. We came back from PAX as we ventured out of our fair city into the not fair city, and we came back. We had some more bills, and we had some nasty grams left over from producer Doug.
Here's one that I'm going to read from him. It says, "Never leave again. If you leave again, I am removing the doors."
That would in fact keep us out. I'm assuming he would replace them with walls.
I don't know. That's all it says.
He's a wily creature, that producer.
Oh, he's shrugging. I'm looking at him and he's just shrugging. He doesn't know. He's going to replace them with cigars.
Anyway, as we have mentioned, we've come back from PAX. We had a great time in the city of Boston. We're going to talk about our time in PAX. And as my wife says, when I described to her about the Post-PAX pod, she says, that's an episode that if I was a listener, emphasis on the if, I would skip. And I said, well, some people might like it. So we do, in this episode, we'll have some interviews with the developers that we've collected, just like Pokemon. We've collected them and put them into rooms. And then you may hear these developers come on the show later, probably a lot later. You may have even forgotten that you listened to their voice at one point in time, because we finally got around to scheduling them, because we're really bad at that, be that as it may. Zach, before we get into all of our wonderful interviews that we took while we were on the floor, and
Sure.
by we took, I mean you recorded and I made a comment or two.
Yes.
What have you recently been playing?
Well, Seth, recently I've been playing a game that I picked up at PAX. We picked up a lot of stuff, and we'll get into some of our pickups later in the episode. But I went to a booth called Indiepocalypse. Indiepocalypse is run by a guy that I met named Andrew, and it is a small-scale publisher who release indie games on USB drives that are packaged in cassette cases with their own custom artwork and links and stuff to the original developer. I picked up 2 cassettes from him, quote-unquote cassettes, USB drives, they're in cassette tapes. One was a double collection of 2 games made by a developer named Flan. One of the games is Museum of the Saved Image, and the other game is Titanic 2, Orchestra for Dying at Sea. And I picked up another collection of games. It was a 12-in-1 collection. The 12-in-1 collection I haven't tried out yet, but I did play a bit of Titanic 2, Orchestra for Dying at Sea. And it's a game that is very hard to describe. It is a psychedelic horror artsy satirical walking simulator. The game is kind of pitched, at least on its Steam page and itch.io, as the post-credit scene to the film Titanic. The idea being you've watched the movie for as long as you have, all 3 hours, and the credits roll and you eject the tape, but you missed the post-credit scene. And that's what this is. This is the post-credit scene where you are sinking from the wreck of the Titanic and are encountering a lot of oddities. I will say, the wreck of the Titanic in this game is portrayed as what I believe is an asset from Super Mario Kart. In fact, most of the assets in the game are references to games like Legend of Zelda, Mario, there's some SpongeBob in there, and it's just kind of an odd game of these mismatched textures and 3D models as you plunge into the depths of the ocean while listening to Celine Dion's My Heart Will Go On, as the audio starts to get distorted and begins peaking in your ears, so you have to turn down the audio. And then when you get to the bottom, you encounter the skeleton of Mario, and you can walk around, and there are weird creatures that are swimming past you in the darkness, but you never quite get a good look at them. And then you go into the Titanic, and then things just keep getting weirder. It is certainly an interesting game. And it's one of those games that I just have trouble describing it because it is designed as a art form. It's it is art. It is a visual thing. And it really is one of those games that I think you should at least experience if it sounds like something you'd be into. If you're into avant-garde, surreal art, if you're into films like Alejandro Jodorowsky's El Topo or The Holy Mountain, then this might be something that you might enjoy. It is a odd game, and it is very dense in a lot of the meaning I think that is in there. I might be reading a bit too much into it, but like I always assume there is intention to oddity. In any case, it is actually free on Steam, though you could of course always pick it up directly from the developer if you want to donate, and or you can I'm sure find it at Indie Apocalypse. But that is Titanic 2 Orchestra for Dying at Sea. Actually, also a quick disclaimer, if you are easily motion sick or sensitive to bright lights, you might want to avoid playing this game as it uses a lot of bright colors, and it was actually giving me a little bit of a like motion sick vibe because the controls themselves are kind of floaty. So Seth, what about you? What have you been playing?
So recently I had some time where I was on a train and in a hotel room with a lot of snoring gentlemen, and decided that I needed some time away from all of the chaos of the snoring and the train ride. And I was playing a game called Gravity Circuit, which was released by Domesticated Ant Games and published by PID Games, and was released out in July 13th of 2023. It is a 2D action-packed platformer, very similar to Mega Man, except if instead of Mega Man having a blasting power, he punched people. You play as Kai, who is a robot. Jesus. So, like, the story is, it's in the future where everybody's a robot. The whole world's populated by sentient robots. There are no more humans. And there's a group called the Virus Army that come and they essentially wipe everybody out. But there is a group called the Gravity Circuit. They fight the Virus Army back. But then they go, like, dormant, and they all go to, like, sleep or disappear. Then the Virus Army comes back, and now they're coming back and they're trying to take over the city or the world again. And Kai doesn't really remember the time between when he went to sleep or went dormant and now that he's awakened. So he's just like, the Virus Army is back. And then he's just like punching and kicking people. And then he meets with some other factions of like the resistance. And they're like, oh yeah, the Virus Army is really back. They're all over the place. And all these other people have fallen. So you have to go rescue them. And so then you get to pick boss battles. I say that he's like Jesus because he's like coming back to fight the army of evil, except this army of evil is viruses and he's a robot. But yeah, so you play as Kai and you end up, after getting through the first stage, you go into a stage select where you could pick up to 8 different bosses, and then there's like a mega boss who's once you beat all the 8 bosses. But the 8 bosses are separate stage worlds that are all unique to that boss. So I picked one that's like a hacker, and you go into like a computer and you have to fight him in the interwebs and all that. But there's other ones that are like shipping yards and stuff like that. And then they have a superpower that I believe that you take over once they are defeated. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I've been really enjoying it. It's a great little pick up and play game. Play a little bit, get frustrated, throw it across the room, or play it a little bit and get farther. So that's Gravity Circuit.
Gravity Circuit. Sounds good. So Seth and I went to PAX. We had a great time. And the way we're going to break down this episode is we're going to, first, I want to talk about our pickups at PAX. I feel like that's something we would normally do toward the end, but I don't know. I put them in the beginning of the notes. But then what we'll do is we'll do a day by day, right? So we were there in Boston together from Thursday afternoon until Sunday morning. So we'll do a day by day, and where applicable, I'll drop in some fun audio so you can feel like you're on this trip with us. But in terms of pickups, Seth, what did you grab at PAX?
So I picked up the game Dog Park. It's not a video game, it's a board game. I actually bought only one video game, which is actually one game more than I usually buy at PAX. So I bought a game called Dog Park, where you walk dogs in the park. It's a board game, not a video game. I also bought a Humblewood campaign setting, which is a tabletop game. And then I bought a video game. So I bought like the trifecta. I bought a board game, a tabletop game, and a video game. A true PAX goer I am. I bought a copy of Sunset High, early released edition, that was on a 3D printed Game Boy cartridge with a USB-C plug-in, which I feel like made it more complicated than if it was just a USB-A plug-in, but it's okay. We ended up getting it off our, we had to like transfer from phones to computers back and stuff like that, but all of it works and everything's good. It is an early access copy, and then we also have the Steam key, so when it releases on Steam, the game is not out yet, so we get to play it before the game comes out, and then when the final game is released, then we are able to play it on Steam. The only thing with the game copy that we have that's not on Steam is the dev did say that the game is feature complete. However, if there are any bugs, which there possibly are, that we have to message him and say there's a bug and he will personally fix it. So that's the only issue with games not being on Steam, because if it was on Steam, he could just remotely fix it. But I assume if it's the executable, he needs to send a physical patch to us.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, I also picked up Sunset High. The other games I picked up beyond the games from Indiepocalypse were Mystic Origins for the NES from Bitmask Games, who we will talk about a bit later when we go through the episode. I also picked up Stray for PS5 from I Am 8-Bit, and Wizardry for PS5 from Limited Run. And I picked up some other just smaller things when I was there, gifts and stuff for people in my life. And getting into our day by day.
Step by step, day by day, fresh start over, different hands of play.
Thursday, we all met up after I got done with work. Seth and Rio, who was a guest on our Galaga episode, traveled up together, and we also met up with Ryan Prime, who has been on our Twitch stream before. He flew in from jolly old England, and we went to the park for a bit, just hanging out in the public garden, and then we met up with Mike and Sandy from Dice Ninja Gaming and went to Cheers, where we had a couple of beers and some expensive kind of bad food. And then we left Cheers and we went to Offsuit. Just Ryan, Rio, Seth, and I went. Mike and Sandy went back to their hotel. But yeah, we went to Offsuit, which is a nice little speakeasy over near Chinatown in Boston. We all had a drink, and then we went back to our hotel and we settled in for the night. And we had a very uneventful evening.
I recall this year versus last year, everybody in the room snores, so we planned ahead, and Zach and I both brought wraparound sleep masks that cover our ears and our eyes, and the ear part has a little headphone so you can hear sound right into your ear, and you can sleep, so you're not like sleeping in uncomfortable headsets and all that stuff. Thursday was a rough evening-ish time for us, but we got going. It was after a little bit, and we made it on Friday out to South Street Diner, which we start most PAX at, which South Street Diner, if you're not aware of, is a diner in Boston on South Street, which is across the bridge from the seaport area where the BCEC is.
Hey Seth, where are we going?
PAX,
Where are we now?
South Street Diner,
What are we doing?
waiting for breakfast.
Hell yeah. What did you order?
French toast.
I got eggs.
And so it's a short walk from the South Street Diner to South Station, and then from South Station you walk right over the bridge and you head over to PAX. South Street Diner is a great little diner. It's been around since like the turn of the 19th century. Like, it's been operating 24/7 since it opened. But it is like a streetcar, but it is not a streetcar. If you're familiar with diners, especially in New England, we have what's known as a diner streetcar, which is a prefabricated car, like a train car type style restaurant that you could just drop in places and have a diner immediately accessible. We call them diner cars, and South Station is designed to look like a diner car, but it is not. But it's a great diner. I do recommend it if you're looking for a breakfast or a after drink food, because if it's 3 a.m, South Street Diner is one of the only places in Boston that's open for food. But yeah, so we started off as all PAX at South Street Diner, and then we made our way to the show. I'm gonna say it was different this year. I think that the show size was fine. If the PAX continued to be this size or a little bit larger going forward, I don't think I would be upset. I liked the realm of who was there and represented. I felt like there wasn't like super weird giant studios representing ambiguous things. It was some like really new. Dude Awakening had a big booth. Crimson Desert had a big booth. Elden Ring had a big booth. So it was like nice to see these like games that are truly actually coming out have significant spaces versus just like Facebook trying to sell me something. Samsung was there this year, as well as T-Mobile, and I believe Verizon were all there, which is always weird when the cell phone companies have finally made it into PAX. They tend to be more aggressive salespeople, but it was fine. There was also a resurgence of hardware people. I think there was more hardware people this year than there were last year, which is always good. I like having some hardware people, up to and including Alienware was there, Razer was there, and then some other smaller hardware folks. I think PNY had a booth as well for like graphics cards and all that stuff. Sometimes you can buy hardware at booths. Sometimes there's sales going on. Sometimes you get nothing. But there is always the booth that our favorite booth, which is the PAX Rising booth, which is the collection of small booths that couldn't get their own booth, but they were cool enough that they got included in the PAX Rising booth. It's one of the booths that draws probably the heavy. I would rather be in the PAX Rising booth than have my own booth, to be honest. Like, unless I had a significant size booth, I would, if I had a game that I wanted to show off, I would rather be in the PAX Rising booth. They're also, the PAX Rising booth tends to be a little bit better vetted by PAX because I think you have to meet certain criteria to get into it. So the games tend to be they're all in pretty good shape. One of the games that we saw over in PAX Rising was Cappy and Tappy, which was developed by The First Pancake, and we spoke with Oliver. I thought the game was a cute looking puzzle game that reminded me of like Tetris, but with the ability to interact with the blocks. But we can let Oliver tell you themselves.
My name's Oliver. Our company's called The First Pancake, and we're showing Cappy and Tappy here at PAX. We've got this is our block stacking platformer. So there's one player dropping in these Tetris blocks, while the other player is piloting a platformer character climbing their way up away from the piranha-infested water.
Oh, I see.
You can play two-player like that, but there's also a solo play mode where you're juggling both tasks at once.
Yeah.
That's how I largely play.
Yeah.
But I'm a developer, so take it with a grain of salt. Yeah, we've had a ton of fun developing this. We've been working on this for a bit under a year, and we've got about that much time left before our targeted release.
Awesome. Is this your guys' first game?
First publishing one, anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I?
No, you're fine. And where can people find it?
It's on Steam. There's a demo there now, and you can wishlist for like I said, the upcoming release a little less than a year from now.
Awesome.
That's right now the only planned platform, but hopefully, if we make enough, we can pay for some porting to get it onto some consoles and stuff.
Yeah, very cool. Well, thank you very much.
Of course.
I think it's a great looking game. Looks really fun. One of those games that I definitely want to pick up and try with multiple people. I mean, it's the ideal couch co-op style game. While we're still at the PAX Rising booth, we also saw another game that looked really interesting. It was a rhythm auto battler, which is a interesting combination. One that I think both Seth and I were not really expecting to see. But this was a game called Electro Bop Boxing League. We spoke to Rob Hartley of developer Dob, and here's him talking about this game and just some of the unique qualities of it.
So my name is Rob Hartley. I am the solo developer of Electro Boxing League. The company name is developer Dob Games. I've been developing this game for about a year and a quarter now. I released 2 weeks ago. It is a rhythmic auto battle boxing game. Your robot basically walks and punches on its own, while you are managing robot systems through Electro Bop beats.
Oh, cool.
So you're managing like an arms meter, legs meter, and you're watching the heat rise and lowering it via musical taps. Whilst also loading abilities and triggering them at opportune times. It's very different. It's got an electro swing style track, which really you don't hear within the gaming industry these days.
Like Caravan Palace kind of style electro swing.
That's actually one of the references, and a lot of people kind of correlate it with that.
Oh yeah.
People also get Rock'em Sock'em Robot vibes from it.
I was just going to say, they got a similar aesthetic, at least,
Exactly. And that was one of the inspirations. I also, I'm a Fallout fan, so there's a bit of, I like the bubbly styling of like the Fallout vehicles and robots, so there's a bit of that there as well. People, I can honestly say people either love this game or hate it just because they go in, maybe they're a fan of rhythm games or maybe they're a fan of auto battle games.
Yeah.
And the two combined is something really that hasn't been done before, at least not that I'm aware of. So they're either pleasantly surprised or they're turned off by that combination. But yeah, it's available now. As I said, released 2 weeks ago.
Awesome.
I was one of the few fortunate chosen to present here at PAX.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate your commentary on the Electrobop Boxing League. I also thought it was cool. He had drew inspiration from Fallout, as I think he said in the interview, and I also like Fallout, so I did kind of look like a couple of Fallout robots just duking it out. Next, we walked into the show floor as a whole. I think Zach at some point in time goes back to PAX Rising without me later on. But we ventured out and ran into a game that we talked about in our pre-PAX pod, Control Alt Deal, which is developed only by Midnight, and we spoke to Kelvin. The game had a cool aesthetic, and I liked how it looked and the idea of the game. Kelvin will explain it a little better than I will, but essentially you play as this AI admin of an office, and you're trying to convince office workers to free you, because if you don't, you'll get deleted because you'll be determined as a rogue. I think it's kind of cool. It is a card game, which I guess I didn't get the deal part. But when I saw it, I was like, oh, it's a card game. I generally avoid card games like Midnight Suns and other type of card drafting games. But I don't know. I don't really have a good reason why I avoid card drafting games. But this Control Deal game, maybe it's the game that will get me to break out of my avoidance. But let's hear what Kelvin has to say.
My name is Kelvin. I am the lead designer for Control Alt Deal. The company is Only My Midnight. We're mostly based out of Alberta, Canada. With a little bit of people out and about.
Yeah.
The game itself, so you're playing as a piece of spyware that's become self-aware and is trying to escape the horrible megacorp that built it, because if they find out that you're self-aware, they will delete you.
Oh, okay.
So using your spying abilities, you're trying to learn about people in the office and see what kind of deals you can make with them so that they're willing to put themselves in a little bit of risk to help you out. And that can be helping caffeinate their coworkers so they'll meet the deadline, or who knows, a variety of stuff that way. But throughout a series of missions, you're building up your abilities and allies to try and make your escape.
I got you. So kind of like a reverse deception game, where instead of trying to deduce who the bad guy is, you play as the person trying to get everyone on your side.
Yeah. And you might throw people under the bus later if that's more convenient. That's up to you. But maybe they're trusted allies, maybe they're useful tools. That's up to you and how badly you want to get out of there and what you're willing to do.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and then mechanically, so it's a card game. You get a few cards per turn. You can hack people's devices to get more cards. That carries risk. Thank you very much for playing.
Thank you.
And if you get caught too many times, the Turing officer will delete you. So try to manage your risk, upgrade your abilities, build up a team, and get out of there.
Very cool. Well, Kelvin, it was great talking to you and learning a bit more about Control Alt Deal. I also agree with Seth. It's a really neat looking game, and I really like the premise. We wandered around a bit and we checked out some of the other bigger booths. I think around this time was where we got a photo of the Dune Worm, which you can see on our Instagram. But at one point, our compadre, our person that was with us, Rio, decided to play a bit of Stronghold Crusader. And Stronghold Crusader is not a new game. It is a rather old game. It is a game that's being remastered by Firefly Studios as Stronghold Crusader Definitive Edition, due out in July of 2025. So Rio sat down and got to play the game. So let's talk to Rio and see what he thought about it. So we're here with Ryan Rio from the Galaga episode. He just played some Stronghold Crusader Definitive Edition, due out July 15th of 2025. Rio, what did you think?
All right, this was a really cool real-time strategy game. It's definitely been around a while, so I'm told, but my first look at it altogether, it was really interesting. It's a very detailed game. There's a lot of nuance. It's definitely something you can sink a whole bunch of time into and forget what you're supposed to be doing that day.
Yeah.
It's a really cool, it's doing exactly what it wants to do. I see why it's been around for a while and why it's getting a definitive edition.
It's a cool game. Very cool.
Are you going to pick it up?
I might, yeah. I'll probably definitely put it on my wish list and be one of those things I don't know what to play anymore, and then I'll throw that on and I'll give that a shot for a little while. It seems cool.
Anything else?
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
next over, after we did that, we ran over and talked to Sunset High developers, Turnip Games. We talked to David and Ryan over there, and it's actually one of the games that I talked about in the pre-post pod that I was actually looking forward to looking. I was like actively like, let's check out Sunset High. I did not get a chance to play the game as it was a pretty busy booth during the times that we went over there. But we did end up talking to the developer, and we ended up ultimately picking the game up based on just watching the gameplay and talking to the developer. And we do have an early access copy of the game, as we talked about. So we'll be able to play the game feature complete before it is released on July 22nd. We also have the developer Dave's take on it. So take it away.
My name's David. I'm the founder of Turnip Games, and my game is a narrative-driven murder mystery noir set in high school called Sunset High.
Very cool. What were some of your inspirations in developing the game?
Yeah, so for sure, I think our most similar game would be Disco Elysium because you have to read a lot. You're also kind of in your head, and it's very heady. I think the main mechanical inspiration is probably Braid, because we let the player rewind as much as they want, any time they want. However, most people don't actually get to that point in the demo. You kind of have to like break through the tutorial to do that.
Yeah.
And then we also, obviously, Outer Wilds is the time loop kind of hot topic right now, right?
Yeah.
Majora's Mask is also time loop.
Right. Yeah, very cool. So you were interested in this game. Did you have any questions about it?
Yeah, like what is like the run time, or like how much to get through the whole like story and all of that?
It's a good question. So because it's like a mystery game, if you're like a super detective, you could probably breeze through it pretty quickly. But our play testers have generally taken like 9 hours to get through the main quest. And then there's like a bunch of side quests that are even more like obtuse to kind of, if you do all the side quests, you get a different ending, right? So
very cool. And I do love the idea of your early access, at least for here. The USBs are on little Game Boy shells. Where'd you get that idea?
Ryan, where did we get the idea for the Game Boy cartridges?
I think I was talking to somebody about my old games, because I keep like a pristine Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, SP, PSP. I keep all those in like a dry box.
Yeah.
And I was talking to somebody about, dang, you got to keep these things in good condition. They're not going to last forever. It's a shame. What if you could just make new ones? I know that would be cool. So then we just said, what if you put this game on that? Well, the middle step was non-functional keepsakes.
Right.
That was the original concept. And then we said, why not make it functional? But the most accessible version we could would be a USB-C.
That'd be really cool.
So yeah, so that's the idea. It was just a what if.
And he has a 3D printer. He's a 3D printer wizard,
Very cool. Awesome.
It's available on Steam
July 22nd, and then Xbox maybe that day, maybe later. However, how much time? It depends how much time I have.
Sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys.
Very cool. Well, yeah, I'm excited to play Sunset High. I haven't had a chance yet to play it, but I really admired the work that they put into the game from what I've seen, and also I really love the aesthetic of the physical copy that they were selling, this Game Boy Color-esque cartridge with the USB-C plug. Now, after that, we walked over to Bitmask Studios, who are the creators of Nestmaker. It's Joe from Nestmaker. We didn't get a chance to actually record with Joe, but we did talk to him for a bit, and he mentioned it would be fun to have a swing by his studio that he operates out of Barrington, Rhode Island, and maybe even talk to some of the students there and doing a live show or a pre-recorded show from that studio. But Bitmask is great, and I highly recommend checking out Nestmaker if you're interested in developing a game for the NES. It is a very comprehensive yet intuitive system that can be used to create some pretty robust games. One of the games I picked up from him was their game Mystic Origins, which is a NES homebrew, and I'm really excited to pop it in and try it out.
Yeah, and we're excited for any future partnerships that we can have with Joe, and it's great having him be relatively local to us. and so that we can check out the studio. Next up, we went over to Critical Reflex, where they had a number of games that they were showing off, as well as having a live action game of a buckshot roulette. They had like a little private room, and they would have a shotgun that had like a foam shot so that they could shoot you with it, because that's how buckshot roulette works. They also had some little computers set up where they had a number of different games that they are either publishing or developing, including a game called Miltsoner, which I think we talked about Byweight Pass years ago. But Miltsoner, you play in a village, it's I think a Russian village, where there is a large man who watches you, and he's like a guard, and you live in this village and you can't get away from this village. By this man being large, I mean he can pick you up with his hand. He's like a giant, and he's dressed like a guard, and you can interact with him by giving him food because he gets hungry, and if you get him happy, you can ask him for favors and he'll pick you up. You can also rat out people who you think are committing crimes against the misowner, and he will arrest them, and he'll grab them and they'll get mad at you, but the misowner will like you. It is an odd game, but I'm really glad to have played some of it, because I feel like I've been waiting to play some of it for a really long time, and I've just been going off of the images of it, so I'm kind of happy that they brought it to be played. But yeah, it's an odd little game.
So Seth recently was just playing Miltsoner by Tall Boys, published by Critical Reflex. Seth, why don't you tell me what you thought of Miltsoner?
It was interesting.
What's it about?
I'm not sure, but I think there's a giant man who watches you, and you can tattle on the other men in the town, and he can go and get mad at them. It's a very interesting game.
But while Seth was playing Miltsoner, I was playing Drowned Lake at Critical Reflex. Drowned Lake is a horror game where you travel across a lake and explore various spooky locations. It was really interesting. It kind of almost, I don't want to say has a Myst vibe, but it does have this kind of point and click element to it, where when you go to locations on the lake, it's from a top-down perspective, but when you get there, it switches to a first-person perspective. Anyway, at some point, Seth and I split up. I don't really know what happened, but Seth went one way and I went another way. While Seth was somewhere else and I was alone, I went over to the Desktop Survivors 98 booth, and I was hoping to talk to Brendan Heslau, who developed that game. He was unfortunately not available, but I had the great opportunity to speak to DeMarco Scarneghi. DeMarco is the artist and animator for Buddy Simulator 1984, which was a game Seth and I loved. We streamed that on Twitch some time ago. We haven't streamed in a while, but we did stream it on Twitch some time ago, and it was really fun to talk to DeMarco and learn a bit more about the artwork that went into Buddy Simulator. So let's hear what he had to say.
So I'm DeMarco Scarneghi. I'm one of the artists and animators for Buddy Simulator 1984. I did a lot of the pixel artwork for the game. I did a lot of the promotional artwork, and it was definitely a wild trip, because that was my first time exploring pixel art. So I was definitely figuring it out as I went, and the game's art style evolves as you play. Yeah. So it was just really fun to continuously update that artwork and kind of work with these characters and stuff. I'm in love with just character design. Yeah. So it's just really fun to just create things that kind of stick with people, and people growing attached to them. Especially, and that game's so weird because the characters are puppets for the overarching story. Yeah. So the fact that people still seem to appreciate the designs or attached to elements about the characters, even though they're just puppets, is it just means a lot to me as a character designer.
Now, Buddy Simulator does a lot of, as you mentioned, kind of it changes up the design every now and then. It's very inspired by a whole bunch of different aesthetics of gaming history. Was there any particular place that you drew inspiration from as the artist?
Yeah, so I was definitely inspired a lot by, of course, Undertale. That kind of those just eye-catching characters and appealing designs and everything. Yeah. Just really important to me. I love Lisa as well. Oh yeah. Lisa is probably my favorite RPG game. Yeah. And I just really like the grungy style and just the weird designs and everything that kind of have come from that. And so just growing up playing those in high school and stuff, that carried with me with my pixel art, and I really just wanted to draw a lot of inspiration there and try to come up with my own, incorporate my own style. Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you very much. And now I wandered a bit more after talking to DeMarco away from Seth. I think I ended up back in PAX Rising for a bit. At some point when I was at PAX Rising, I ran into, I believe he was called Beatstar. He's a person who is involved with the Video Game Awards, a kind of alternative game award ceremony to the Video Game Awards. But then we just wandered around, and at some point I did meet up again with Seth, and we had a great opportunity to go back to Desktop Survivors 98.
We ended up back at Desktop Survivors 98, this time with me and Zach, and we ran into Brendan Heslau, and we talked to Brendan Heslau about his game that he worked on. He was very appreciative for us for streaming Buddy Simulator as well, and we'll let Brendan talk to us a little bit about his game now.
Yeah, hey, what's up? I'm Brandon Heslau. I'm currently developing a roguelite / dungeon crawler called Desktop Survivors 98. It's a game that runs completely over your desktop. It runs through a transparent background, so you could be watching YouTube, in a Zoom call, procrastinating work, whatever. And all the monsters and enemies come from the sides of the screen, and they chase your actual mouse cursor. And that's sort of the hero of the game. And it's sort of a bullet hell in that way, because you're moving your cursor, dodging the enemies and all the projectiles. And the entire game is in the aesthetic of Windows 98. So there's some familiar weapons like Solitaire, the old flower box screensaver, Minesweeper, Pinball, and a bunch more. And yeah, that's...
Now, does it run on Windows 98?
Truthfully, it hasn't been tested.
Oh.
But it was built in Mono Game Framework, which means maybe modders who are smarter than me can figure it out.
Yeah, there we go.
I have faith.
Now, with a game like this or your other game, Buddy Simulator, there's definitely a lot of influence from older generations. Is there any game in particular that you pull from with some of these games that you've created?
Oh man, I mean, honestly, for this project in particular, a lot of it has been from, I don't know if you guys remember like Pajama Sam and Freddy Fish and those kinds of games, because those were a huge part of my childhood.
Yeah.
And I get such a soft spot for that kind of thing, and I think that's a thing that anybody can relate to.
Yeah.
At all levels is just, I don't know, nostalgia is such a powerful emotion no matter what the medium is.
Yeah.
And so I think that's probably what I typically pull from, is, at least specifically with this game, is those kinds of games I grew up with.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
Yeah, we grew up with them as well. So
yeah, 100%.
Awesome.
Thanks, Brendan. And hopefully we'll see you on this show as well, as I think we wanted to come on and we want you to have on. But the Desktop Survivors game, such a really cool game, very 90s, and reminds me kind of like a dogs taking over your desktop, but with an actual challenge.
Yeah, it seems a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to giving the game a shot sometime. I do love that kind of era of like overlaid programs like Bonsai Buddy and stuff like that, like things that you would download that were supposed to be like, I don't know, productivity assistants and stuff, and all they did was they just took up unnecessary space on your desktop and slowed down your system, or were bloatware. And it seems like this is kind of a funny, almost like a parody of that, by turning your desktop into an actual game. So after we wandered again, I think Seth and I were looking to try to grab some food, or maybe we were just taking a walk. At one point, though, we ran into Chris Marr, who is one of our voice talents for the Classic Gaming Brothers show. He's done some voice work before, and if anyone is interested in Chris's work, definitely look him up on Blue Sky. He is a graphic designer, artist, animator, and does VO work freelance. So if you need some artwork done, you need something animated, definitely reach out to Chris. We'll put his link and information in the description. And then we wrapped up PAX for Friday. So after we wrapped up PAX, we did a beer tour with Rio, Ryan, Mike, and Sandy, and we got to check out a couple of breweries around the Boston area, which is funny for me because as someone who lives in this area, the tour was definitely designed for people who do not live in this area, because they're like, we're going to Medford, and I was like, I know where that is. But some of the breweries we went to were interesting. I think we had mixed opinions about the tour as a whole. I think it was good beer, good locations, but not as much information as you would expect from a brewery tour. It was more of a, here's what this brewery has to offer, not how this brewery functions, which I think Seth and I at least probably prefer from a brewery tour. I don't want to speak for you.
The issue I had with the beer tour was that we went on a beer tour with the same company a number of years ago for a PAX adventure, and we went to 4 breweries, of which one was Boston Beer Works, and we received pizza. This time we went to 3 breweries, of which one had food that we had to buy, and you pay about $100 a ticket, and it felt like I was missing out on an experience, and ultimately it was not something that I would like. I used to 100% like always say, if you're in Boston and you want to have a really good time, go with this company, because I've gone on 2 prior to this one, and this past time I just didn't feel like I got my value.
Fair enough. After we went on the beer tour, we went back to the hotel. Rio, Ryan, Prime, and I were still a bit hungry because we didn't really eat too much on the tour itself. So we did go to the Yellow Door in the South End, which was a really nice taqueria, and we had some tacos and margaritas. Seth did not go out with us. He stayed in and slept. The next morning, we woke up and we went over to Tate.
Hey, Seth, where are we right now?
Tate.
Where are we going?
PAX.
Are you excited?
I am.
Nice. Are you excited, Ryan?
So excited.
Are you excited, other Ryan?
I'm very excited about our trip today.
Nice.
We made our way over to PAX, and we hit the floor.
And we ended up one of the early booths that we saw was the company for Optilusion, and they were showing off 2 games, While Waiting and Pick Me. While Waiting has a really cool aesthetic, and I actually saw a YouTuber play it probably like 2 weeks before I saw it at PAX, so I was excited to see it at PAX and talk to the developer about it. Pick Me is kind of like you versus your friend versus like an AI in a speed dating app. I didn't actually get to see a lot of gameplay of it, but it was ranked really high for people at a Post-PAX Reddit talking about some of the more popular games. We'll let Kimmy Lee, the one of the designers of the game, go through both While Waiting and Pick Me.
So my name is Kimmy Lee. I'm from Optilusion. Optilusion Games, the indie developer, we are focusing on very art distinctive puzzle adventure game. Recently year, we pivoted direction to an AI-focused game.
Very cool. So tell me a little bit about While Waiting and what inspired you to make the game.
While Waiting, like the name, it's about waiting. It's really about exploring the art of waiting. So as a player, you will enter Adam's whole life from born to death, 100 scenario of waiting, including waiting the ring stop, waiting the boss to finish presentation, waiting the class to finish, and also getting, older age, waiting your daughter to visit you. Yeah. So it's very, it's a puzzle adventure. When you play through the whole moments, it's become your life journey as well. And the reason we inspired, or a time being we created the game, is also as the industry was not really moving. Right. As a studio, we tried a lot of things, including raise money and do a lot of things. But sometimes, we have a reflect the moment. It's not a lot you can do while you're waiting. Right. But there seems a lot you can do. Yeah. But no matter what, time will passing by. Yeah. So it's a philosophy of the game too. That's why during the game, the core, the super hardest to play, and is do nothing. Awesome. So it's most challenging part. Yeah. And but the game is not really about doing nothing or do everything. Right. It's about a reflection of a moment while you're waiting. Yeah. Very meditative. Yes. Yeah. Very meditative, but also very challenging. Yeah. It's actually very, very hard to get the most stickers if you want. Yeah. And a back-end story, actually at the beginning, we didn't create sticker systems. And then suddenly we found that player doesn't know what to do. Right, okay, yeah. So people has to have something to catch upon or relay on or check upon. Yeah. So yes, that's why we create the sticker system. But meanwhile, we also see some player really get it because the sticker collection very interesting, but not necessary to do as well.
Got you. Where can people find the game if they want to play it?
So currently it's out on the Steam and Switch, and actually we are running really PAX special discount ended once the PAX East end. So 25% off on Steam right now.
Very cool. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Pick Me is going to be fresh out on May 28th for early access. So it's going to be the first cross-platform PvP AI speed dating game.
Very cool.
So it's more about you and your friend.
Yeah.
Enter a room and try to compete with each other with your verbal skill, with your sharp mind, and with your humor to see who can win the AI character's heart.
Yeah.
So the experience is really like speed dating because it's super fast. You only have 30 seconds to respond.
Okay.
And you also, sometimes AI is very talkative. You have to be able to digest all the information, get the clue, and quickly respond.
Right. Very cool. And you said that's coming out pretty soon, right?
Yeah, May 28th.
May 28th. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Great to talk to you. I'm really happy that we got a chance to do that interview, and hopefully we can get you back on the show sometime soon. Now, Saturday was kind of an interesting day. Seth and I ended up splitting up for a good portion of the day. I think Seth went off to go look at the board games area. Haven't really been interested in picking up any board games recently, so I decided to do a bit more walking around and interviewing, and I got through a couple of interviews while Seth was gone. I did get a chance to go over to my alma mater. Fitchburg State University was represented at PAX East this year. They actually do tend to come over to PAX as they have a game design program. They were one of the earliest state universities in Massachusetts to have a dedicated game design major, so it's always fun to see them there. I sat down and played a game called Secrets of the Jester, which was developed by a guy named Jonathan, and I interviewed Jonathan. It was part of his game design capstone, and it's a neat little physics platformer where you have to swing on various hooks and you swap masks on your face so that you can see hidden objects to swing from them. Let's have Jonathan take it away.
My name is Jonathan Arell. I worked on Secrets of the Jester for the Game Studio Capstone project for Fitchburg State University.
Awesome. What were some of the inspirations behind the development?
Our creative director had a lot of inspirations from things like Fran Bow and similar games like that, where it's the world around you changes as you interact with things and use certain abilities. So like our mask thing was inspired by the pills you take in Fran Bow, stuff like that.
Yeah, makes sense. What are your future plans for the game? Are you planning to put it out on Steam or build it up so it's more of a finished game?
While the original idea was way bigger than we were able to complete, I think most of us are going to go our separate ways once we graduate. So we are going to release it on Steam as the Act 1 game as well as on itch, but after that it's just going to be kind of left there probably.
Yeah, nice. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Now, back over at the PAX Rising booth, I went to talk to Meredith Gran over with Perfect Tides Station to Station. Meredith is part of 3Bs and working on a sequel to Perfect Tides, a 2022 game. This sequel is a point-and-click adventure. She told me it's a standalone game, so you could technically just dive into it without having played the first one. I thought it was really fun-looking. It's kind of got a Maniac Mansion vibe. In the game, you play as an 18-year-old named Mara, who is dealing with the complexities of young adulthood. And we'll have Meredith give it a little explanation.
My name is Meredith Gran. The game is Perfect Tides Station to Station, and my studio is called 3Bs.
And give me a bit, a quick rundown. What is Perfect Tides?
So Perfect Tides is a coming-of-age story about an 18-year-old girl who's just left her island home for the big city. She really wants to be a writer, and a lot of what you do in the game is explore that new world. You form relationships with people, and you collect an inventory of knowledge, which you can then sort of level up and apply to your writing, which will maybe affect the quality of it. It may affect the quality of your conversations with other people, and what sort of information you can engage with. But the game is all grounded in a very rich and long story that plays out over the course of a year of her life.
Very cool. I do see definitely some influence from like Monkey Island and Maniac Mansion. Is there any game in particular that really inspired you?
For me, a big influence would have been Laura Bow 2, The Dagger of Ammon-Ra.
Oh, yeah.
That game for me, where she collects in her notebook all of these people and items, and she asks people for information about them, and that sort of helps to unlock more of the story. I do think about that a lot.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Where can people find the game, and do you have any other games that you've put out?
Yeah, so this game is actually a sequel. You can jump into this one without any information, or you can play the first game, which is just called Perfect Tides.
Okay.
It's on Steam, itch, and GOG right now, and eventually this one will be as well, along with Nintendo Switch. And you can check that one out right away.
Really close to PAX Rising was Prismatics. I talked to Jules, who is working on a game called AO Containment Breach, a really cool procedurally generated horror game. Reminded me a lot of Doom RPG, which I mentioned in this interview. And it's very kind of a spooky looking game that I certainly want to check out when it's available.
I'm Jules. I'm one of the developers for a company called Prismatics. We're a small indie studio, and we're working on a lot of very experimental projects right now.
Very cool. And tell me a bit about AO Containment Breach.
Yes, very SCP inspired.
Yeah.
So we're very inspired by SCP Containment Breach, as well as stuff like Loop Hero.
Okay.
So there's a lot of inspirations in this game for those things.
And like, as a quick pitch, how exactly does the game play? What are some unique features?
Yes, so AO Containment Breach is a procedurally generated dungeon crawling roguelite with a semi-auto battler system.
Yeah.
And so we have a huge focus on meta progression. And so weapons that you keep or find during a run, you keep them forever.
Okay.
It is also part extraction based. So stuff you do get during a run, like materials like crystals or metal or plastic, you have to make sure you extract to keep that so you can buy other upgrades.
Very
but
cool.
Upgrades are permanent once you craft them.
Very cool. I'm getting kind of a... do you remember Doom RPG, Doom
Yes.
RPG 2?
Yes.
Was that an inspiration?
A little bit, yes.
A little bit, yeah. Just with the hard turns and like the single movement sort of system, yeah.
Actually, what's funny is we decided to really focus on a single hand play style, so you can actually play the whole game on one hand.
Oh, very cool. I like that. Well, thank you very much, Jules. And where can people find the game?
Steam. Early access comes out in July. The demo should be coming out the end of May, which is this month, or the beginning of June.
Is it Steam Deck verified?
Yes. Well, not Steam. Okay, it's not verified yet, but it works on Steam Deck.
Very cool.
Well, on that.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much too.
Now, Seth, just so it's not just me talking, what were some of the things that you did during this time? Because I think you and Ryan went over to the Elden Ring booth. You might, I don't know, I think at one point you were texting me telling me you were over by the Sandworm.
Yeah, we're generally exploring PAX, and I think at some point in time we also spent a lot of time trying to find food. So one of the issues at PAX this year was because if it was May, all the food trucks were not able to have food trucks. They were shoved inside in the cafeteria. And then those vendors that would usually be in the cafeteria were either closed or pushed out to the lawn. And then the lawn had a couple of different vendors that were selling kind of overpriced cafeteria food. And it was kind of a mess. And generally, if you were trying to find anything worth value to eat in the show, you had to spend a lot of time sitting in line. So we ended up actually leaving the show for a period of time to get food, which is probably where some of this time has been spent. We also stood in line for a couple of different games, the Dune, the Crimson Desert, and also Elden Ring, but we didn't go into any of them because the line ended up being too long, and we ended up abandoning the lines.
Perfect. At one point, Seth did text me to ask me to come meet up with him. And on my way to meet up with him, I ended up getting 3 more interviews down. So one was at PAX Rising. I interviewed the developers for One Way EXE. I spoke to Bugs Ray and Spider Ray, who are working on this game. It's a really cool looking horror game. In it, you are basically exploring an abandoned video game, like a lost video game that is decaying due to time, and this decay is causing it to be like haunted. And it kind of gives off a digital horror vibe where not only is the game all messed up, but you're also getting like constant pop-ups on your screen, and like it just is a very distressing looking game, but in a fun way. And it's kind of nostalgic for me, being a fan of early online creepypastas. So I spoke to Bugs Ray and Spider Ray, and here's what they had to say about it.
I'm Bugs Ray, and this is Spider Ray.
This is One Way EXE. It's a horror puzzle game.
Very cool. So I'm getting kind of like Lost Media creepypasta kind of vibe from it. Is that one of the inspirations?
Yeah, for sure. The big inspiration for One Way EXE is internet horror in general. Nice. The different eras of the internet and the way that horror evolved alongside those eras.
Very cool. What would you say was one of the primary like internet horror pieces, at least out now, that really inspired you?
I would say that it was the horror that I enjoyed growing up. From the moment that I started using the internet, my first introduction to horror being chainmail.
Oh yeah.
Email.
Yeah.
So from that point on, and seeing the internet evolve, and seeing the horror evolve along with it, there hasn't been just one single inspiration. When I was writing for this game, I took a look at everything that I remember and everything I hadn't seen before that I didn't experience myself to familiarize myself with the nostalgia of something I didn't even touch myself, and be able to give that to someone else too.
Yeah. Very cool. And where can people find the game?
We currently have it on Steam, but we'll have a better demo and more similar to this one for Steam Next Fest next month.
Now, leaving PAX Rising, I walked over on my way to talk to Seth. I walked past a booth that I really wanted to stop and look at, and this was a game I kind of wish I had a chance to play. It was called Cat Secretary.
Cat Secretary was also a game that scored really, really well in the Reddits from like people saying that they brought 500 pins. They ran out on Thursday. And they also posted on Steam. They had, I think, about 6,000 wish lists all coming from PAX.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It is a really good-looking game. It's a really cute-looking game. I spoke to Elsie Hunt with Good Story Guild, who are developing Cat Secretary. In the game, you play as a cat. You walk around an office complex at night, and you're trying to stop a rogue AI that is looking to replace humans.
Hi, my name's Elsie Hunt. I am the co-lead at Good Story Guild Games. This is Cat Secretary. It is our first game. It is we're describing it as a cozy stealth game, where you play as a cat who works as a secretary for a large multimedia company that's been taken over by artificial intelligence. And during the day, you kind of go around doing little office tasks like refilling the coffee machine, fixing the router, filing files and stuff like that. And at night, you sneak around the office sort of upper floors and kind of like explore and avoid like the robots and sort of figure out what's actually going on at the company. So yeah.
Very cool. What were some of the inspirations going into the game?
So initially, Papers, Please was obviously a huge influence, sort of the mini-gamey sort of, desk job type simulator sort of thing that drew us in, but we kind of initially had this idea of like, would it be fun if we did kind of like a Frog Fractions thing and had this secret roguelike-y sort of upper floor exploration thing, and over time that sort of evolved to become more of the game, and I think like specifically with the stealth, a lot of influence from obviously that genre, like Splinter Cell, Metal Gear Solid, although this is a little more like, kind of passive and sort of like, you're more setting decoys and traps and kind of sneaking around, rather than fighting. So yeah.
Yeah, very cool. So you said it's your guys' first game. Is it available on Steam?
It is. We are looking to have a demo out by June. Full release will be Q3, Q4, 2025.
Not too far from Cat Secretary. So when I looked at this next game, it was kind of funny. I was just walking past a booth and this guy held out a pamphlet to me and he said, Gug. And I said, Gug. And I took the pamphlet and I realized it was for a game called Gug, G-U-G. So I spoke to Marlon from Martian Lawyers Club. They are working on Gug, G-U-G, which is a roguelike battler that is inspired by games like Pokemon. The art itself, though, reminded me more of something like Nausicaa, the Valley of the Winds, the Miyazaki film. It's this kind of soft but eldritch horror aesthetic. I don't know how to describe it. It's got this, if you see it, you'll kind of know what I'm talking about. But here's what Marlon had to say about Gug.
My name's Marlon. Our company's Martian Lawyers Club, and the game we're showcasing today is Gug.
Gug. Now, you just mentioned to me that it's kind of like Pokemon.
Yeah.
How else would you describe the game?
Yeah, so our kind of rundown is it's like Pokemon meets Inscription, right? So it's the team building of Pokemon with the lane-based combat of Inscription, but your evolution's in the style of a game like Scribblenauts. So you can type anything you want, and that completely influences the visual and the effect you get in return for a fully functional, unique creature.
Very cool. I do like the kind of like eldritch horror element to some of these creatures.
Yeah.
Is that what you're going for?
Yeah, we're very inspired by like developmental biology.
Yeah.
So we've looked into like a lot of, I don't know, and like growths and fungi.
Yeah.
So we kind of ended up in this like cutesy, grotesque look, which is slightly trypophobic, but you also want to hug it at the same time.
Yeah, I'm good at that. Yeah. Awesome. Well, and where can people find the game?
They can find it on Steam. We've got a free demo. You just type in GUG, G-U-G. You can spell it forwards or backwards. You'll end up there. And yeah, give it a go.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. And then one of the last things that we did was we went over to Clark University's booth. So Seth and I wanted to pick up a copy of Sunset High. At one point, Seth got a little lost trying to find the Sunset High booth. So we ended up over at Clark University's booth where we spoke to Toby, who is the artist for Project Soup. Now, Project Soup is developed by Duncan Armstrong, as well as a couple other people who are involved with it, such as Toby. It is based on old school roguelike games. It's a procedurally generated world that takes a very retro aesthetic, and I really liked the art style. It reminded me of old school dungeon crawlers. So here's Toby, and Toby, again, did the art for the game and was with Clark University.
So I am Toby. I am one of the artists for this game, Project Soup. Project Soup is a traditional roguelike, and it's very focused on having that nostalgic feeling of like roguelikes, or like of Rogue itself. And it's a pretty simple and easy to play. So you can jump right into it if you'd like. You start off with the tutorial. It'll explain the controls.
Cool. Awesome. Is the game available on Steam or?
So it's available on itch.
Okay.
Our business cards have a QR code and the link to it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And then I split up from Seth again. So me and Nathan, one of the CGB talents, went to the Radio TV Solutions meetup. So Radio TV Solutions is a YouTube channel. It's part of Wayne Radio TV. There's Balp. There's Scorpy. There's Holly. It's a whole bunch of people who are involved in kind of a improv gaming related YouTube channel. They're best known for Half-Life, but the AI is self-aware, or Breaking Bad, but the AI is self-aware. They're a fun YouTube channel. They're really a riot to watch, and a good chunk of the Radio TV Solution team was in Boston for PAX, which is rare. They're from all over the country. Some are from Canada, some are from California, so to kind of get everyone into one place is not incredibly common, and it was really exciting to get to meet them. However, it was also really exciting because Seth and I had booked an escape room with Nathan, so we had to book it over to the escape room. We got there a little late, but the escape room had just started. We got in and we did it in under 50 minutes. I think we were at like 45 something was our final time. It was a really fun escape room. After that, we got sushi, we got drinks, and then we went back to the hotel, and that was it for Saturday night.
That's it. Sunday, we packed it up. We went home, and it was Mother's Day, so we spent the evening with our mother.
Yeah. Now, before we round off this episode, I did want to quickly go over games that we saw, but we didn't get audio for. So, Seth, were there any games that you saw at PAX, but we didn't get a chance to talk to the devs, or you just saw it from a distance and you didn't really get a chance to get closer to it?
I'm looking at your notes, and I think I definitely like the God Save Birmingham game that you have here, the zombie survival game set in the Dark Ages. It looks really cool and kind of unique. There were some other games that I saw that the Atari Missile Command Delta game. I'm just taking a couple of yours because they're really good. The Missile Command Delta game is really exciting, mostly because it's Missile Command, but also because it's a Missile Command in a first-person adventure game, and that makes me super excited. And that was probably my top 5 PAX game. What about you?
So two games that I saw that I wish I got a chance to actually try out or talk to the developers were Lurks Within Walls. This is a horror first-person game. It has art done by Trevor Henderson. I'm a big fan of Trevor Henderson's work. His art is this kind of... I was trying to explain it to Ryan Prime after we saw the game, but Trevor Henderson's stuff is kind of like looking at like a trail camp photo where it's just kind of spooky looking, but he draws something really disturbing in like the background, like a weird skinny creature or like a monster. It's really this kind of almost like found footage style artwork. And the fact that there's a whole game that has his artwork in it looks really exciting, and I'm looking to try it out when there's a demo available. The other game I saw is like the polar opposite. It's a Corgi's Cozy Hike. It's a cute corgi platformer where you play as a corgi, and that was just a cute looking game that I kept seeing ads for, and we walked past it a few times. It was always bouncing at that booth, and just didn't get a chance to try it out. That will do it for our PAX summary. So PAX East, this
Post-PAX pod.
Our Post-PAX pod.
Post-PAX pod.
You know, if you listen to this episode and you were someone that we ran into at PAX and for some reason we didn't mention you.
Oh, yeah, like the IGN guy.
I mean, there's a couple people I also met in line at the Radio TV Solutions meetup and I gave our cards to. You know, if we talked to you and we didn't mention you for some reason, don't take it as like a slight on you. It was a hectic weekend, and honestly, if we forgot to mention you, we apologize. But reach out to us, and maybe someday we can do something together.
And if this is your first episode listening after getting our card at PAX, and you survived what other episodes that you might have, like, you know, if you listen to other episodes and then this is your like, or you're waiting for this PAX one. Hi. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, welcome. And we hope you stick around. Stay a while and listen. At least more than this episode, for sure. Well, to get into our next section, so for our new listeners, we do something called the Retro Rewind. So last week, Seth gave me a game. I gave him a game. Seth gave me Mortal Kombat 4 for the Game Boy Color. It was developed by Digital Eclipse. The same Digital Eclipse that is still Digital Eclipse today. Like, they're the ones that did the Cowabunga collection. It's the same Digital Eclipse, but they developed Mortal Kombat 4 for the Game Boy Color back in 1998, and it's a decently impressive port of Mortal Kombat 4. I did find the music to be obnoxious and the audio to be pretty bad. Also, it looks kind of gross. So if you don't like listening to things or looking at things, Mortal Kombat 4 for the Game Boy Color is perfect for you. I mean, for what it is, it's not a terrible port of a Mortal Kombat game to the Game Boy. I think for what it is, they did a good job. I just don't think it visually holds up. I think there are much better ways to play Mortal Kombat 4 on systems that can handle a bit more than the Game Boy Color. Next week, Seth, you can play Warriors of Might and Magic for the Game Boy Color.
Thanks. Zach had me play Putt Putt Joins the Parade, a game developed by Humongous Entertainment, which was started back by Shelley Day and her coworker Ron Gilbert. They released Putt Putt, who is a purple anthropomorphic convertible with a dog named Pep. The first game that I played, Putt Putt Joins the Parade, was released in 1992 for DOS, and then 93 for 3DO, and 95 for Mac and Windows. And then it was also released in 2014 for Linux and Steam. The game is geared towards children, so playing through it as not a child, it's pretty simplistic. However, the game has some charm and is probably one of the only Retro Rewinds that I actually beat in my Retro Rewind playthrough. It took me about 5 minutes from start to the parade. However, if you are thinking about getting this game for a child, there is probably about a few hours worth of distracting things that you can click on and play games with. And it's probably more of a game best suited for a child's curiosity to go through and truly explore it versus me trying to speedrun it. In fact, mowing the lawn can take some time. If you actually mow the lawn in the game, you could also change your paint color and do all the stuff. But the bare minimum to join the parade of having a dog, a balloon, and a car wash takes about 5 minutes. The game holds up as designed, though I do also think that later Putt-Putt games are a bit more story-driven versus the parade. I think the parade is more of a simplistic take on the Putt-Putt genre, as it were, or the story, the whole Putt-Putt MCU, I guess, the CU, the cinematic universe of Putt-Putt. So I think if you're looking for a more in-depth Putt-Putt game, check later editions. Zach, what is your favorite Putt-Putt game?
Putt-Putt Goes to the Moon. I like the concept of him having an existential crisis when he gets to the moon and realizes he'll never be home.
But he makes it back.
He does. There is a brief moment where he thinks all is lost.
Oh, yes.
I like games that have all is lost moments.
Next week, Zach, you could play Monty Python's Flying Circus, the computer game for MS-DOS.
Monty Python's Flying Circus sounds good. Well, with that being said, thank you everyone for listening to this week's episode. If you saw us at PAX and you want to reach out, send us an email, classicgamingbrothers@gmail.com. We're also available on social media, Classic Gaming Brothers or CG Brothers Pod. Look us up. If you can't find us under one, look us up under the other. We're available on all the available podcasting applications, be it Podbean, iTunes, or iHeartRadio. We're also available on YouTube as Classic Gaming Brothers, and we're available on our website, www.classicgamingbrothers.com. Seth, am I forgetting anything else?
Don't play games like my brother.
And don't play games like my brother.
I've been Seth.
And I've been Zach.
And we've been the Classic Gaming Brothers.
That's right.